Hello everyone. To dominate Vietnam, the U.S. military tried every possible tactic to force the Vietnamese soldiers into submission, from dropping metal wires to jam radar signals, disrupting communication between radar and command posts, to deploying the $15 million F-111 aircraft to fly low and destroy the SAM-2 missile defense system of the Vietnamese soldiers. But all those clever tricks that worked elsewhere only brought embarrassment in Vietnam. Imagine this. Whenever a family's TV signal went out, someone would shoot into the sky. And just like that, boom, the whole village got clear reception again. Incidents like that made the U.S. military lose face again and again. Frustrated, the U.S. military decided to step up its game. They created the Shrike missile, a deadly weapon designed specifically to destroy the Vietnamese soldiers' radar systems. Shrike was an air-to-ground missile equipped with a homing head that locked onto electromagnetic radiation. In simple terms, whenever the Vietnamese soldiers' radar emitted a signal, the Shrike could detect it instantly. All the U.S. pilot had to do was press the launch button, and the missile would home in on that radar signal, almost guaranteed to hit its target. That meant whenever the Vietnamese soldiers turned on their radar to locate U.S. aircraft, the Shrike would smell the signal and strike immediately. The U.S. air squadrons always included F-105 jets carrying Shrike missiles, flying ahead to hunt for the Vietnamese soldiers' missile sites. The moment the Vietnamese soldiers switched on their radar, before they could even lock onto the aircraft, the Shrike was already on its way, hitting right where the signal came from. This terrified the Vietnamese soldiers. In the past, the Vietnamese soldiers could set up fake positions made of bamboo and thatch to fool the Americans. But that trick no longer worked. A fake site didn't emit any radar signal, and the Shrike only targeted real ones. Realizing they were being deceived, the U.S. military switched tactics. They no longer relied on visual detection but tracked radar emissions directly. Every shot was deadly accurate. To fight back, the Vietnamese soldiers found a simple but effective solution. They turned off their radar. The only problem was, when the radar was off, U.S. planes could bomb freely without fear of being targeted. As a result, the Vietnamese soldiers suffered heavy losses. So the question became, how could they keep the radar on and still avoid the Shrike? After carefully studying how the missile worked, the Vietnamese soldiers realized that if each missile unit operated separately, the Shrike could easily destroy them one by one. So they changed strategy. Dozens of missile battalions were placed close together, daring the Shrike to find the real target. They developed a clever method. Radars were turned on and off alternately, one side on, the other off, switching constantly and unpredictably. Each radar was only active for a few seconds. This cat-and-mouse game confused the Shrike completely. The missile, designed to lock onto a single signal, was now overwhelmed by dozens of shifting sources. It became blind, no longer able to distinguish real from fake. This trick drastically reduced the missile's effectiveness. Shrikes were launched but rarely hit their targets. However, this was only a temporary fix. The Vietnamese soldiers' ultimate goal was to shoot down B-52 bombers. And to do that, they needed to keep their radar active long enough to aim properly. Setting up a missile base was no simple task. It required wide, elevated terrain with clear visibility. Once a site was chosen, transporting all the heavy radar and missile systems there was another challenge entirely. That's why the Shrike missile was such a nightmare for the Vietnamese soldiers. Their radar systems were precious, provided by the Soviet Union, and nearly impossible to replace. Losing even one meant setting back the entire air defense effort. After countless losses, the Vietnamese soldiers finally discovered a way to counter it, though the success rate was only around 1%. The Shrike traveled at 510 meters per second, while their V-750 missile could reach 750 meters per second. Theoretically, if both were launched at the same time, the Vietnamese missile would hit first. The moment the missile was fired, they would quickly shut down the radar and rotate the antenna to avoid detection. Easier said than done. In reality, it required perfect timing and nerves of steel. Imagine both sides launching simultaneously, with only seconds to decide whether to keep guiding the missile or cut the radar to save the crew's lives. The Shrike flew at over 1.800 kilometers per hour, nearly twice the speed of sound. A single miscalculation could mean total destruction. Yet with unbreakable courage, the Vietnamese soldiers accomplished the impossible. The success rate of Shrike missiles dropped from nearly 100% to just 50%. Thanks to their intelligence and bravery, the U.S. military was forced to abandon the Shrike program. Once the threat was neutralized, the Vietnamese soldiers could focus on their true mission, shooting down B-52s, winning control of the skies, and securing victory at the Paris peace talks. The U.S. military withdrew. The Saigon government collapsed, and the country was unified, just as President Ho Chi Minh had foreseen. Everything was connected, and after neutralizing the Shrike, the Vietnamese soldiers moved on to face their next challenge, defeating the legendary B-52 bomber. Thank you for watching today's episode of History Today. If you enjoyed this story, don't forget to like and subscribe. Let's reach 1 million subscribers soon. See you in the next episode.